Hey.
Hello again, Tim. Welcome, everybody, to If These Walls Could Talk.
Yes, and I'm one of your hosts, Tym Moss.
And I'm the other one of your hosts, Wendy Stuart. And thank you so much for being with us on this somewhat warmer Wednesday. It is somewhat warmer.
Yes, but very cloudy today.
Cloudy and rainy. And it's like, you know what? We're on the tail end of January. And as you all know, January has been my birthday month. It's been a doozy, Tim.
It has. You had a big party last week.
We had my party here, right? Oh, I need to explain to everybody that a week for me is like 3 weeks in someone else's life. Tim just said you had a party last week, and it was like, no, that was 3 weeks ago. Actually, he's right. Thursday, we were here at Pangea. We had a stellar evening. I think, what did we have, around 100 people?
I wasn't there.
That's right, you weren't there. Got so much happened.
I just know what you did all week. I got your schedule, you've got mine.
And I got yours. You weren't here because you were in Florida, and I was here. Thank you for reminding me I had my birthday. We had such great people, and Brian Alejandro, who has performed at Pangea, also did a special dedication to me that night.
Oh, nice.
Yes, he's a wonderful performer. And he used a word that I never thought of, but crooner. He always reminds me of like Las Vegas and Sammy Davis and Dean Martin and a lounge, all of those things. So that's how we felt. And we had an amazing cake from Venero's. Oh my God. You know that strawberry shortcake?
Yeah.
Totally sends me. Now you were down in Florida.
Yes, I was in Fort Lauderdale. I had went down for Jerome, my friend Robert Gould, who wrote Little House on the Ferry that I'm involved with. His husband Jerome just got his citizenship from France. And so we had the ceremony and the oath and a party and an event, and I sang at it, and it was really, really something I'll never forget. It was very moving. It was very cool. It was wonderful.
Well, yeah. I mean, the whole thing with someone getting their citizenship, right? Although I think I told you a lot of my friends now are going in the opposite direction.
Yes, right.
I'm getting like citizenships in Norway and in Spain and places like that. So this is wonderful. And I'm sure the event itself was great. And how, you're a performer, how wonderful as a gift to be able to give the gift of song, right?
Yep. Yeah. And it was very much appreciated, which sure. I liked. Yeah. It was really quite something. The weather down there, I mean, it was better than it was here because it was sub-zero at the times up here with wind chill, but it was in the 70s most of the time. But there was a couple days that it was in the high 70s, so I could hit the beach.
Well, I saw that picture of you on the beach, Tym Moss. I was so jealous. I could have scratched your eyes out. My question is, and I believe someone else asked the question, what happened to everybody else on the beach? What did you do to chase them away?
Oh, it was like 75 degrees. So all the Floridians are like, oh my God, it's too cold. And I'm like,
woo! Jackets. Tim was 75. Like, yes. I'm so happy to be on the beach. So, but Tim, this is what I mean. I see Tim so much. He just got back, and literally the night he got back, which was Monday, we had the Slam Awards.
Right. I got off the plane from Florida. I came home, I dropped my bags, I picked up my camera bag, and I went down to Sony Hall to cover the Glam Awards, which we were up. This show was up for an award, which we did not win. But again, I got to thinking, that is totally the drag community.
It is a drag community, and I think
just for us to even be mentioned and nominated is really quite an accomplishment. So
I completely agree. And you know what? I said this, and I mean this from my heart. I would have been there whether I'm nominated or not. Before I even had a podcast, I used to go, I am so inspired about the children that are coming up. And it's happening fast and furious.
And it was hosted by Peppermint, who was
so great,
just stellar. Her opening number was just incredible.
Yes, because she's an amazing talent. And then, of course, on top of that, the way people dress, I got it. So one of the presenters, the dress was made out of like plastic wrapping that you wrap a gift basket in. Brilliant. Took her, another friend of mine talked to her, took her half an hour to make. and probably cost a couple of dollars. It was so, Tim, you know who I mean. It was the presenter with the long straight blonde hair and the enormous like cellophane, a dress made out of cellophane. It's brilliant. And you know what? The kids, even though some of them were not there to get awards, they're not performers. They came to support their friends. The styling of this thing, it is really one of like the most, I think, New York City events at Sony Hall. So,
I agree.
right?
Agree.
We had a
It's
great
kind
time.
of a throwback to old New York, where everybody just dressed wild and fashionable and creative and
Right, and they're using their imaginations. Now, okay,
But last night, well, firstly, I just want to say Wendy and I went out on the town last night. We had dinner. Just one moment, Wendy. Hold on. We went out and we had dinner at, what was it? Sushi by Bo?
Isn't it Sushi Boy?
Sushi by Boy.
Yeah,
By Bo.
Sushi
It's
by Boy.
BOU.
Right.
And that was an incredible experience. It really was. We went down, we were about to order. We couldn't figure out how to order. And they said, it's all prefix. And it was just, they would bring one piece of shrimp for each one of us, or one piece of sushi, each one of us
all fresh.
at a time. Right. And it was just absolutely amazing. And then we worked our way over to, now, go ahead.
Harmony on Broadway.
Yes.
Phenomenal show. Closing soon. You need to get your tickets to this. I'm going to tell you why. The storyline was amazing. And it's a true story about a Harmony troupe that was in Germany. And I'm not going to give out spoilers, but I will tell you things in Germany got a little dicey. And they were touring the world, and they were over here in New York, and they had an opportunity.
They traveled the world. They were very well known. They made albums. They made films,
and all of it.
Films. Yeah.
Right. And they had a chance to stay in New York, and they almost did, but unfortunately they didn't. And that is where our story goes with it. And it's what happened. I didn't realize, Tim told me that this was an actual real group.
Yeah, and in actuality, because there were some Jewish performers in this troupe,
right?
They ended up not only canceling, but basically destroying all of their films and all of their work, all of their albums, their entire life's work. Yeah. It was just,
and in the dialogue, the monologue by the person that played the rabbi, he had been years in the group. They had two people playing that, the younger version, of course, and the older version. The older version of the rabbi was a narrator. He gave a monologue that I have to tell you, and this, I was sitting there and I was crying.
I was too.
There's so many parallels to what is happening in our upcoming elections. I will just say that it was scary. It was actually scary. Yeah. It was really actually scary.
You mentioned the older rabbi and
yes,
there was the narrator was the older version of the guy that they called rabbi in the group.
Right, that was his name.
And the older rabbi sang this incredible number in the second act that was just mind-blowing. And in the first act, the young rabbi sang this amazing song that got a very extended ovation from the audience. It was just remarkable. And the music was written by Barry Manilow. And Bruce Sussman wrote the story. Yeah.
So if you want to catch a fabulous, timely, brilliantly performed, everyone in it, the performances were gorgeous. The singing was, exceptional voices in this show. Please go get yourself a ticket to Harmony. It's at the Barrymore Theater, and it will be
highly recommended.
Highly recommend. Tim and I had box seats. I felt like Abraham Lincoln.
Yeah, it was fabulous. Weren't those seats wonderful? We were right off the stage, right? And just any closer we would have been on stage with them.
That's right. It was so fabulous. Oh, so speaking of,
and I just want to say thank you to Jamie DeRoy. That was very nice of her.
A shout out and a thank you to Jamie DeRoy, who was on this show a few weeks ago.
Yes, and she's one of the producers of Harmony.
Right. And there are people like Jamie DeRoy who are keeping our industry going.
Yes.
The work that she's doing is incredible. She has her hand in these productions, and this completely blew me away. Thank you, Jamie DeRoy.
Yes. Yay.
So, on to our guest today. Our guest today is a violinist and described as an adventurous composer, arranger, and orchestrator with deep appreciation for America's musical history and a scholar of African American musical heritage. That is fabulous in itself. She understands as a socially conscious activist and educator just how music can touch everyday people.
Mhm.
Boy, we want to give a warm welcome to Gwen Laster. Come on in.
All right, I'm in.
Yay.
See, I always tongue twist and God
How are
damn.
you, Gwen?
Hey, Tim, so nice to meet you.
Oh, it's so
Nice
great.
to meet you.
Yeah.
Here we
So good
are.
to be here.
Look
So
at
nice
us.
Welcome to our humble abode.
Yeah, this is our humble, but we're on TV. Oh my God. Gwen, thank you for being here today. The amazing Lori Tower has said you have to have this woman on. She is just the most incredible violinist, and she's so humble. And I'm like, she sounds like our kind of guest.
Yeah.
So yeah, you have.
And I watched some of your previous shows, and I was like, this is going to
Oh.
be light. This is going to be funny.
It is right.
This is going to
Yep.
be beat, because whatever we're talking about, we just want to put bring it to light, bring it so people can
Yes.
just see what's going on.
That's who you are. We can tell them what's
Yeah.
going on, right? And we want to
Yeah,
put it in a
absolutely.
great way. But yeah, that's what it's all about. We want to spread that love all the way around. So
Well, we've got so many bases to cover with
Yes.
you. So now violin is your instrument of choice.
Right. Yeah. My first
it was your first.
inspired instrument, mainly because of how I grew up with my mother listening to a lot of music. That's, coming from Detroit, big
Uh-huh.
music city,
Big music.
Yeah.
city.
big music city. My mother loved to entertain. She loved to party. And alongside that, of course, there's always going to be good music, right?
Uh-huh.
So I just grew up with her playing music of Dinah Washington, of Nancy Wilson,
Oh boy.
Motown for sure, tons of Motown music, blues, jazz, Miles Davis, super sax, all kinds of music.
Love it.
And a lot of that had a lot of strings happening in it. The string arrangement.
No, I love the way she said it right. It was the string music versus wind music.
Yeah. A lot of singing, a lot of voice, and a lot of strings. And then my father was a big music guy himself. He loved jazz and he loved contemporary classical.
Okay.
So between the two of them, even though they weren't professional musicians, they loved music. So it kind of got in my DNA.
It was a music appreciation.
Totally.
How old were you then when you picked up the violin?
I was very lucky. A public school product of Detroit Public Schools. So we had classes twice a week, and I was in the 4th grade when I started. So they come to choral, they come to your singing classes, and they figure that these kids are the ones that have the most musical
ability. Right? Yeah.
So they choose, kids, and they ask, well, who wants to play this instrument? Who wants to play that instrument? So that's how I started violin.
Oh,
that
wow.
was part of it. And then I also saw kids that were ahead of me, like a year or so, in concert. And I thought it just looked so magical, because you know how it looks with the bow, the string. And
you could see yourself doing that. By the way, I was in 4th grade when they came to us the same way.
Yeah.
And I took violin, but it wasn't like it's not like what Gwen's describing.
Yeah.
Mine was like this, and my shoulder hurt,
Yeah.
and my chin was double.
Yeah.
And my mother said to me, maybe you should think about the wind section. You, Gwen, you obviously you had an ability for it, a sensibility for
But
it.
that's so interesting that was the instrument you picked.
Gravitated
And
towards
had you been exposed to violin music before?
Well, just from listening to it from my parents. So I think it connected to me, oh, that's the thing I've been hearing in all of these with these jazz singers and these, Motown records with all of those string
That's you,
arrangements. I was
yeah.
like, yeah, I like that sound.
Wow.
So that's how I got that's how I chose the violin.
And you know what? Kudos to you for giving a shout out to Detroit Public Schools. When I was reading about you, I'm like, wow, that is, because we hear so much about Detroit, and it's always like, oh, really? That is really something that you were able to become accomplished, and the fact that they turned kids on to music in such a way in public school. I was a public school kid too.
Yeah.
When we had music programs.
Yeah.
You know, a lot of that, this is something worth mentioning. A lot of that's been cut out now.
Yeah.
I don't know. What is it like in Detroit now as far as you know?
Strings programs are very limited now. When I grew up,
This is
they were
wrong.
just thriving.
Oh,
And, so they had strings, and so I was very fortunate. And my middle school teacher was a jazz trumpet player, and he had never taught strings before. So my middle school and high school were on the same campus. So what he did was call the orchestra teacher and say, "Can I send over these string players to walk across the football field?"
I love it.
So that they get a chance to be an orchestra on some days.
nice.
And then he let us just on the other time, you know, we would be in class playing, playing instruments, and he would guide us. But he also allowed us to just play on the piano by ear. So a lot of my friends just taught me how to play by ear on
So
piano.
you also can play by ear on the piano.
A little bit. I mean, I use it for really writing music. I'm not going to take a gig on piano or anything like that. But I do it at home, and I use it to study,
But you can actually write without taking tons of piano lessons. You are able to write music.
Well,
using
yeah,
the piano.
I think a lot of people have to do that if they don't play piano. A lot of people will go to the piano as this vehicle for writing, because you can see everything. You know what I mean? Like it's right there in front of you.
And also, it can play multiple notes at the same time. And the chording, you can do a chord, you can do a melody, and you can do a harmony, and you can you all in one place.
Right. Yeah, voicings.
Yes.
You kind of switch stuff around and get some ideas and orchestrate, and look at things like that. So that's how that came about. My high school teacher, I have to say, was my biggest influence, because after I had all of that happening from home, my high school teacher, we were in orchestra one day, small orchestra compared to what orchestras you may see now. I mean, like 20 kids or something. That was huge for our neighborhood.
It's a school orchestra, right?
School orchestra. And the year I went to high school happened to be the year that there was funding that came in my neighborhood to make it a magnet fine art school.
Okay, so
so we had this new facility with practice rooms. So I have to say, my high school is like about a quarter of a mile from where Motown started. So I'm talking.
Can you imagine having that influence?
Yeah. We're talking about in the hood,
right?
You know what I mean? Like we're right in the hood, and a few of couple of the Temptations graduated from my high school before. So this was the environment, And
now,
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Oh, I was just going to say, did Motown? How much influence did Motown have on you growing up?
Well, they had already shifted to LA.
Okay.
By then, but still,
the seeds were laid where you were from.
That's right, and there was still so many players. I mean, the business of Motown moved to LA, but a lot of the musicians were still in Detroit.
Of course, because the vibe that fed them was in Detroit. You were going to tell us about Aretha Franklin.
Oh, I was just going to say that in my neighborhood, Aretha Franklin's dad's church was like 3 blocks.
Can you imagine?
And we'll have to come back to Aretha because that was
big influence for you.
Playing with her on a Showtime special was one of my first sort of professional gigs.
Jesus, start at the top, right? Why don't we just
tell us everything? Wow. Tell us everything.
Yeah, well, I was in grad school, and this trumpet player, another jazz trumpet player, looking out, said, "Why don't you hire this college girl, to play on this Showtime special?" So I think I was in grad school at the time, and so it was when Pink Cadillac was out.
Right.
Clarence Clemens was on the gig, and I mean, it was just like, oh my God. When I think back on it, I forget that there were even a couple of other string players on the gig, because I was
right, exactly. You just couldn't believe that you were doing it, right?
It was just one of the most exciting.
Where were you in grad school at that time? Where did you go?
Went to school in Ann Arbor, University of Michigan.
University of
Michigan School of Music.
Yeah. So that was
really. You know,
So,
I have to say,
well, just keep watching. I'm not going
yes,
past Aretha right now.
yeah, we're not going past Aretha yet. I do want to bring up the fact, you know, you're saying all kinds of buzz things to me, like the grants that came into your school that enabled kids to have music, that your school had gotten
Oh yeah, the funding that came through Detroit
funding,
Public,
right?
Yeah, that came through Detroit Public Schools. So with that funding, one day I came to orchestra, and there were like red and blue and green electric violins and amplifiers. So my orchestra teacher, you know, surprised us with these electric violins and amplifiers and these jazz string arrangements. So then he would just stand and make sure everybody, including the strings, would take a solo. So he would just say, "Stand up, take a solo. Stand up, take a solo."
What an
So
opportunity.
One thing I want to know is, what is the name of your high school teacher that was so
Anderson White, and he was a violist who also graduated from the University of Michigan School of Music.
Wow.
So he was a real forward-thinking guy. He took us on tours. You know, it's so funny. I always tell this story because so obviously, if I grew up in Detroit, I was 99.9% Black, right? Mainly all of my teachers, definitely all the kids at the schools. I think there were like 2 Asian kids in the whole school, and I didn't know they were really Asian because they seemed to identify as Black.
Right, I was going to say they were 99%.
Right. They just seem like light-skinned people, you know, or something. So my teacher sent us. Let me see. I think I was in the 11th grade, and he somehow had some connections to give us an opportunity to go away to a music camp in Madison, Wisconsin.
Fabulous.
University of Wisconsin in Madison.
It's a great school, by the way.
It's a great school. It was a summer camp. So we went away for 2 weeks. And that's when I realized that orchestras were so much about white people, because I thought that growing up in Detroit,
I figured everything was but good
mainly, but we went there, and it was only the 4 of us from high school were the only Black kids in the whole 70-piece orchestra. I mean, but it was a great experience. No troubles there. Everybody was just as excited to see us as we were excited to see them, you know?
But you brought up a good point. It's like a lot of times you go see jazz, it's white, it's Black, it is mixed on that level, but orchestras for the most part, when you think about it, absolutely. Absolutely.
It's like that. I mean, I used to go see the Detroit Symphony, but I didn't really connect with that. I mean, we would have field trips. So I was like, well, those guys, there's nobody Black on stage, and they got on, everybody's wearing the same thing.
Right.
And I don't know. I think I like when I saw Jean Lupani playing that blue violin. I
did it for you.
That's the thing I want. I don't know if I want.
There you go.
You know what I mean? So,
well, back to Aretha.
Yeah, back to Aretha.
I want to know, like, when so you got the gig, the guy referred you or recommended you, and you got the gig. When you first walked in and you were rehearsing or whatever, and when she first walked in, what was that like?
I was just staring at her and listening to her and looking at her, and she's so articulate and open and warm, and knows what she wants on the bandstand. So it was just amazing to me, and just to be a part of the music that I grew up listening to like that.
Right.
You know, that was really.
And you're so young. You're so young, and there's Aretha. That's what we call, you know, a great break right out of the bag.
Yeah. Well, that was my fuel going back to Detroit from Ann Arbor, because Detroit is only like 45 minutes east of Ann Arbor. So on weekends, I mean, I knew I needed to strengthen my playing. And so I knew I needed that classical playing. I knew I needed to learn how to execute on my instrument. So I knew I needed that strict playing, and I loved it, but it was a stifling environment.
Got it.
Right. Very stifling environment. And what was intriguing to me when I would listen to improvisers and jazz players is that they seem to know how to spontaneously get inside certain the idea of improvising and get so deep into it spontaneously like that. And I wanted to know, what did they know about doing that? I want to be able to spontaneously create like that. And so I knew if I wanted to do that, I was going to have this technique. So I spent a lot of time going back and forth.
Wow.
To Ann Arbor from Ann Arbor to Detroit on the weekends, because that's where I really got my fuel. That's where I really got my encouragement and my support.
Right.
Even though I might not have sounded so great on the bandstand some nights, if I didn't know really the advanced composition of a song,
absolutely,
it was still a supportive environment.
Right.
Mhm.
And you can't make an omelet without breaking eggs.
That's right.
And
So-
so you had a really, when I hear jazz, right, what blows me away, you're talking about that spontaneous, it's the layers and how the people play off of each other. And it's a conglomeration, right? I'm a non-music person, conglomeration of sound
Yeah.
and rhythm. Like how does that happen within a person? How did you know when you were there?
Mhm.
How did I know when I was there? Well, I don't know if I knew I was there. I was just in conversation. Like you said, like it's a collaborative process.
Yeah, it's like,
and I felt like we were having this conversation. I mean, the same thing happens in orchestral music, but it's very pre
set. It's
No,
preset.
it's preset.
Yeah.
So the whole joy of the improvising is that you had certain elements that were preset, right? You have your melody, you have this, but then you get to jump off into your own
thing.
music making.
Yeah.
And I was just blown away by what people would do with that space and that time to do what they wanted to do. So I knew that that was what I wanted to do on my instrument. And just luckily, just growing up around, even in high school, my friends, we had bands and we were gigging around town. And even from the very beginning, the people that I played with in my high school were all about, we got to have original music. We got to try to shop these original songs. We got to try to get a record deal. Let's get our photos. Let's get our promo going.
In high school.
In high school. And
in high school.
And then I have to say, I mean, this neighborhood that I grew up in, I think about it. Wow, like what a time. So I lived like on the corner of kind of a main street, tree-lined street. Beautiful. I didn't realize how beautiful it was, all those trees until I went to New York.
Yeah, right. And you didn't see any these Spartan things,
right. I'm like, wow, I grew up
dead.
pretty good. And I didn't realize
big leafy trees.
Right. So I lived here, and a guy named Ray Parker Jr., who was very successful in LA. He lived down the block across
Wow.
the
street. You had, know?
Yeah, and then the other end of the middle of the block was Nathan Watts, who's played bass and still plays with Stevie Wonder. And then at the end of my block, Rosa Parks lived there.
Good. I mean, it's like a who's who.
Right. I mean, I used to see her still walking to get on the bus to go to work. You know what I mean? Like still on the bus going to work. And I'm reading about her. Now, this is when I'm way in like 4th grade or something like that. I'm reading about her in my textbooks. So
wow.
Is somebody out of your neighborhood.
Yeah. I mean, so all of these, and there's a lot more musicians in my neighborhood. So everybody was kind of like, I'm getting out of high school and I'm going, and I've set myself up. So this is what I want to do. So
Gwen, how much do you think this had to do? Let's talk about the times. It was what, the 70s?
Yeah.
70s, so that's my time too.
Yeah.
You remember what things were like then.
Civil rights movement.
Right. And all of that. And what you're describing, look at the people that came out of your neighborhood. It was a very free flowing, like if you could think of it, you could do it. It was one of those times where you could just bust open.
Yeah.
You take and compare that to now. I wonder, like, if we go back to your neighborhood now, there's got to be kids there that are musical, but funding has been cut. Think of all the things that have gone on now compared to what we had then.
Oh yeah. I mean, my high school, at one point they changed it to a trade school or something, but now I think I've seen some postings on Facebook that it actually has a music department again.
Good.
Realize something, thank God.
Yeah, but I don't know if you guys have been to Detroit lately, but it made a big comeback.
I had heard.
Yeah, I mean, a huge comeback, because I would generally get back like every year to go play a gig or two. And there was a time in there when I just didn't think it was going to make it. But man, now when you go back over these past like 8 years, downtown is like thriving.
Good.
What was involved with that comeback, like from your perception?
And first of all, it's either called CompuServe or CompuWare, this big computer based
job creation.
I'm understanding all of those jobs. We're paying it six figures. So that kind of brought people from different places. It's the gentrification thing. They started downtown, and then but even in my neighborhood now, I notice they have bike lanes. I'm like, bike lanes.
Right.
Yeah.
So now we are changing.
Right.
Things are changing.
Right.
So
right. Sometimes you have to hit rock bottom for things to turn around. And I know Detroit did.
And Detroit definitely hit rock bottom. Yeah. Because even on my block now, I'm talking about Nathan Watts. His house is not there anymore. It burned down. There are still houses that are outside of the downtown areas, like you guys know, with gentrification. They start downtown, and then they try. The plan is to move out into the neighborhood.
Yeah, the surrounding areas.
We don't know how successful that actually is going to be, but that's what they're trying to do. So
now, musically, because see, I'm also an entertainer. I'm a singer and play keyboards and do some writing and
music.
But I'm one that's more. When I walk out on stage, I have to have. I like it very. Not regimented, but I'd like to know that the song is rehearsed, and I know where the break is and whether where everything is at. And jazz is just the opposite, where you walk out and just let your spirit flow and just go with it and take it out, create it differently every performance. And what I'm wondering is, when do you remember that moment where you decided to just leap off that cliff into your originality?
Well, first of all, jazz, I would say traditional jazz, which is what I was initially introduced to, always had a form about it. It always had a melody. It always had a form, maybe a melody, a bridge, an ending. And so all musicians knew that there was a form that they would follow in terms of their performance skills. So the improvising happens in a certain part of that in traditional jazz.
Right.
And I would say I was pushed off into that environment by my high school teacher.
This is your high school teacher.
When he would say, "Stand up, take a solo."
Right.
Yeah. So
Anderson, what's
Anderson White? Yeah.
Anderson White. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I was, even though you're frightened for the first time of doing it, that you've been traditionally trained where you're looking at a sheet of paper for the music.
Right.
You have to figure out, what of those notes, how do I create my own sequences and ideas, and how do I use part of the melody of the form that I'm playing to create my own ideas? So I would say that's what I got pushed, but you are put on
a spot.
I was gonna say
take a solo. It's your moment to shine.
Yeah.
I was gonna say, because once you're thrust into that and you get a feel of it, that would just be exhilarating.
It was exhilarating. It was like it was a real turn on, and it was something that I wanted to study more, and more. And
you watched yourself take a chance and rise to the occasion.
Yeah, I don't know if I rose to the occasion, but I was trying.
Yeah, right.
Yeah,
I love that.
I would just jump in and try it and enjoy it, and then I had the support of my friends, my high school friends. I mean, they were just like amazing musicians at such a young age.
Incredible in high school.
Yeah, and we would get together when we would have parties. It would be about what music are we going to all listen to together.
Wow.
That was how we would hang out,
nice.
listen to music. So I got turned on to so much music from people. I have to credit my high school friends because they just had this vast knowledge of music. I mean, when we would gig around town, we were playing like Frank Zappa and Graham Central Station.
Wow. Everything. Yeah. Edgar Winter.
Yeah,
right.
I mean, this is the kind of and original music and originals. And recording them, and
how many of the people that you stayed friends with from high school went on to become professional musicians like you?
Actually, I mean, out of the 10 that I think of right off the bat, I would say half of them.
That is an amazing. That's an amazing number, Tim. Really.
Yeah.
Now we have a video.
We have a video.
And again, I was surprised to see a good buddy of mine, Iodele,
playing
the guitar with you. I love him. He's
make sure you tell him Tim said hi.
He's like my brother from another mother. I love that man. He is so cool.
He's amazing.
Yeah, but why don't we take a look at Gwen Laster and playing some jazz for us? Here we
Yes.
go.
Wow.
Yeah.
I said she's so joyous when she, it just comes out of you. Whoever is watching you has got to feel amazing inside.
That's great. That's what we want. That's why we're artists, right?
Yep, yep.
We change the world. or we
Uh-huh.
try.
And
That's-
you can hear in your head before you play it, like you're like the little climb that, and
I think so, or I don't know. I mean, I don't know if I hear it before. I guess so. Yeah. I would think that I'm hearing things, and then I play what I
then
hear.
you reflect.
Yeah.
Right.
Or in theory, I want to be able to play what I hear. That's why, right? Yeah.
Yeah, that's the intent, definitely.
Yeah, that's the intent.
Absolutely beautiful. That piece is called again?
Children of Banjul, and Banjul is the capital of Gambia. And that's composed by Damon Banks, the bassist that's playing there.
Oh, okay.
Why was that particular place put in this piece? Why the Gambia?
Well, this piece was a part of a larger program, and we played other pieces as well. That clip just happened to be available and already edited, and I think we had it's on my website, and we had submitted it to keep the project going. It is a beautiful piece. Yeah, it's a beautiful piece. We love it. Yeah, as you can tell, everybody in the band really enjoys it.
Amazing, right?
Yeah.
Amazing. I was looking at some of the people that you've played with. It's just like
wow.
Who's Andre Bocelli?
Yeah.
Yeah. We let me see. I think I played with him the last 4 years when he's been at Madison Square Garden.
Oh my God.
And so this last time, we were scheduled for New York, Philly, and Hartford. So we're going to be doing the Hartford and the Philly gigs in February because he lost his voice during the tour.
Oh, goodness.
Oh my God.
Yeah, but he did do the 2 nights at Madison Square Garden, but we're going to do the other 2 dates in February.
Nice.
Wells Fargo Center. Great show. I mean, he brings together these amazing singers and dancers. One year I remember Heather Headley being there, and then David Foster, and what's David Foster's wife's name? The singer.
God, I've forgotten. I have David Foster down.
Yeah. Well, I'll come back to
and
her.
he tends to collaborate. Andre Bocelli collaborates with the same people. Once you work with him, you're part of that group.
Sort of. Well, I mean, there's been different people every year. One year he brought like, I would say about 50 fourth and fifth and sixth graders from Haiti.
Oh my God, how very cool.
To come and play. And they sang, they sang Ave Maria and one other piece in English, and it was just beautiful. It was before the voices changed. So it's just,
but what an incredible opportunity for those children from that place, my God, to create that upper. Yes. That's what a lot of this is about, being able to take, and I've read about you push it forward in that way.
Yeah.
You pay it back in that way.
Well, listen to where I came from. I have to push it forward.
Right.
Such a wide variety of people that you performed with too. Like in addition to Andrea Bocelli, Shakira, Jennifer Lopez and Mark Anthony, Danny Elfman, Gladys Knight,
yes.
Shaggy,
Shaggy,
Creator, and John Baptiste. Oh my God.
A lot of those people were on the Bocelli, and a lot were
really.
I have to give credit here again, especially with the Alicia Keys.
I wanted to ask about that.
The Unplugged and a couple of recordings with her, and
wow.
Yeah, that was because of this musician here in New York, Ray Chu, amazing pianist and string arranger. He's the MD for the show that Voices. What is it called?
One of the voice shows.
Yeah.
The Voice.
I believe he's the MD for The Voice.
Wow.
But aside from that, I mean, no, really, he's an amazing pianist, very talented, and a great string arranger. So I met him when I moved to New York, maybe like 2 weeks after I moved to New York, because I was doing some gigs in Brooklyn at a club. And I sat in. That was like second night I got to New York. I went and sat in at a club because I was like, I got to go sit in and meet these people that are on this scene. And then I started subbing on Broadway shortly after that.
I love it.
And then my first part-time teaching was at the Harlem School. So I had to like cover these 3 areas to,
Was this your own game plan that you put together?
Yeah, or that was put together for me once I got here. Yeah, you got to figure it out.
Right. You got to figure it out. Yeah. And this was like what, the first year?
Yeah, this was the first
year. That is
year.
like really focused. Wow.
Yeah.
Think of how many people come here and they're looking for their navel. You came here with, all burners blasting.
Yeah.
You're going to do it.
Pocketbook. That wasn't blasting.
Well, so what, Gwen? It never is. And sometimes we can go through all of this, and at the end of it, we wonder what happened to that money and how it blasted through our pocketbook. Keep going.
You just keep going. Yeah.
No matter what.
So Ray Chu was somebody that I called to do gigs, and then he remembered me and then started calling me for these sessions, and a lot of these names on this on my resume are because of Ray Chu. So,
God bless, right?
Yeah.
What was Rihanna like?
Oh, just beautiful and nice and real simple and just real down to earth. That was.
See, I love hearing that. You wouldn't know any of that. She's an amazing performer.
Amazing performer. We were on the Today Show, and I did go to Barbados and play.
You did? You got where she's from? Wow.
Yeah. We played the Barbados Music Awards. Just real regular people. Real regular. Alicia Keys too.
I've heard Alicia Keys is just a really down to earth girl. Super talented.
Super hard worker.
Tell us, Gladys Knight. Tell us what that.
Gladys Knight was a part of the Apollo celebration. I don't know if it was the 80th year, something like that. So it was a few people that were a part of the whole night. Gladys Knight, Natalie Cole. I had the Isley Brothers. I mean, it was just like, yeah. But I have to say, from all of these collaborations, I learned a lot. And because when I first got to New York, I was doing these freelance
gigs,
and then this is the pop end of it. But there were the creative people like Anthony Braxton, like Wadada Leo Smith, like the Haitian queen of song, Emmeline Michelle.
You got to work with all of them.
I got to work with all of them, and it spurred my enthusiasm to focus back on my own projects. So this is kind of where it led me into how can I make time management, the big deal. We're all trying to figure that out.
Oh boy.
Yeah.
I feel like that's been blown through the roof since the pandemic. I told Tim,
yes.
it's like everything everywhere all at once, and I can't compartmentalize anything.
Yeah.
And it feels,
Yeah.
it just feels like this all the time. Now, is it me or is it?
No, it's
good?
everybody.
I think we're all trying to play catch up or something.
Or something,
Yeah.
or absolute. But yeah, it's a hard thing. Now, you've been a teacher. You still are teaching. You've taught at Bard.
I teach at Bard. I'll be teaching
Great school.
jazz standards class.
Wow.
So this is the first time I'll be teaching a class. Prior to this, I had like 2 to 3 private students. So I'll teach a class one day a week, jazz standards, which is great because then I get to dive deep into that myself,
right,
and learn how to communicate that a little better. So that's going to be nice.
Bard is a great school too, super creative school.
Yeah, it feels good there. I mean, the students are really enthusiastic about learning.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of creative kids. My daughter had gotten into there, but she chose Smith instead. That was a very hardcore school. Barb was a little more earthy, crunchy, and creative. And I often think, what would she have been like if she had gone to Bard?
Yeah,
great place to teach, though.
Yeah, it feels really good there, and so I'm happy that I'm involved in that, and all of that just spurred me to sit down, especially during the lockdown, during isolation, and to say, okay, you now have time. Let's really spin back around and focus on writing more music, and what are you going to do with that? And you've never written anything for string quartet. And so that's how the Blue Lotus recording came about with the New Muse Quartet. I had opportunity to produce a concert of string quartet music during the same time that I felt really sad and angered by the situation with Sandra Bland, who was was a woman who in 2016 or 17, this is a while ago now, was driving in Texas and got pulled over for not having her blinker on. And her and the cop got into this big altercation.
I know this story.
Yeah, and she went to jail, and then they said that she took her own life like a couple of days later.
Right, but we know that didn't happen.
And I went to bed one night and said, I know that girl did not take her life.
Right.
Coupled with the fact that I live in the Hudson Valley. And shortly around that same time, I was driving and got pulled over, and I never knew why I got pulled over. I wasn't speeding, but the cop pulled me over. He said, "Is this your car?" I said, "It certainly is, definitely my car."
Right.
So
you were profiled.
I was profiled. He took my license. I sat in the back of the cop car.
You had to sit right. He made you let's do the whole thing. Get out of the car, ma'am. And he took it right. And then he had to complete it further and have you sit in the back of a cop car. I mean, it's so awful.
Yeah. And while he looked up everything, so then he found that my insurance had expired 2 months before for 10 days. It was current, but so that was okay. I'm going to give you a ticket. I'm going to tow your car. I'm going to go to court a couple of times. So,
my God.
So that brought about my Black Lives Matter suite. And so that's when I
was going to ask you, did you feel rage? This story is making me feel rage. And however you dealt with what you felt, what did you do? What was your creative outcome? And you just answered it. You did your Black Lives Matter suite.
Yeah, I did my Black Lives Matter suite. I thought about, I wrote the first movement called Cigarette to the video of the first Sandra Bland arrest. So I just watched it over and over, and I kind of developed some melodies around the characters. And I called it Cigarette because as soon as the cop said, "Ma'am, put out your cigarette," that's kind of like when the shit hit the fan.
Right.
So I wrote that, and I added 2 other movements. And I think I just decided that it's important to, as artists, if we can, to dedicate some of our thoughts or our music or our whatever our art form is to social activism. Like we've got to do something. We got to talk about something that's gonna help other people, that's gonna shine a light on some things.
Tim and I and our whole group of friends that we perform with are right on that same track, and we feel now it's needed more than ever.
Yes,
you cannot sweep it under the carpet. And I admire you because honestly, in the telling of your story and how you got pulled over and he had to find something on you, and then that he tows your car, you kept your cool. But in the telling of the story, if I were telling the same story, I think I'd be here and I'd be outraged. Your telling of it to me is it's outrageous and it's wrong. And you're right, through our creative processes, that is our only way of fighting back. And for things that happen in the news, when you go and write something like the Black Lives Matter suite, I think that is a great way to reach people. You're reaching all the people that turn off the news. Black Lives Matter has got nothing to do with them, but you put out a piece of music, something they have to listen to with that title on it. And then it's like, oh, well, why did she write that?
Yeah, then it brings back this story, and
it brings back this story,
and then it makes people think about things that happen to them, and most importantly is that you find an outlet to express it in a positive way, and a way that brings attention to that matter, whatever that matter will be. I mean, people are doing all sorts of things still right now with their art that is exposing the real deal, of what's going on right now all the time. So I just feel that's what we're here for.
Right. Well, I think Tim and I agree with that. You notice we opened our show talking about harmony. I thought I was going to see a musical, and they start off with, a bunch of gorgeous guys harmonizing on stage. And I'm like, oh, this is entertaining, but I had no idea what it was going to be like.
Not real deep.
The way they paralleled what was going on in Nazi Germany. And if you think of a lot of what's going on now, people cannot deny what politically is in the air. And a lot of it did start with Black Lives Matter, but there's a reason that happened. And we all, especially as artists, we owe it to try and give something back out there.
That's exactly. That is it. Yep. That's it.
That is our legacy.
Now, I love the term adventurous composer.
Yeah, I love it too.
Arranger and orchestrator. Now, you have some very impressive accolades. You are the recipient of awards by the National Endowment for the Arts, Music USA, Empower Sphinx, Jubilation Foundation, the Puffin Foundation, and the United States Artists and Arts Mid-Hudson. Congratulations, firstly, on all of those.
Thank you. Thank you.
Very impressive list. But just one other thing I wanted to point out, it was not just, we were talking about Broadway here. You are no stranger to Broadway as well, because I have Miss Saigon, Beauty and the Beast, Carousel, Wicked, Porgy and Bess, The King and I, and the Notre Dame in Paris.
Yeah, all of those were just hustle subs, subbing shows. Except
you played it,
right.
It doesn't matter.
You can walk in, sit down, and with the score in front of you and play.
Well, I think you guys know. Maybe you don't know how it works.
No, I know. I was going to ask you what to find a hustle sub.
Yeah, it's
mean?
Actually pretty hard to me, because
I would think.
Yeah, you get the book, you go and sit in the pit, and you hear the show. You can record it, or either they'll give you a recording, and most of the time we'll have a recording for you. You'll learn the whole book.
Wow.
And your audition is to come back and play the show.
Whoa.
And your colleagues and the conductor, I think, will evaluate whether or not you can be on the sub list.
And that's
a lot of work.
Wow.
For no pay.
Then that's a very impressive list. If you had to learn all of those, just to audition, because usually you audition and then they pick you, you come in and you learn it.
Right.
Wow.
So that's on your own time. You're not getting paid to do that. You just have to do it.
No, you just get paid that one time you come in and play the show. But the trick with that is
Oh.
that if you do make the audition, you want to be called regularly.
You want to be on that
soon,
list,
or
right?
else you're gonna forget it.
Right.
Right. You got to keep it fresh.
You gotta keep the show under your. You gotta get the show under your fingers. So you want to be called a lot. That was that I'm thankful for in The King and I, because the concert master got me in Belinda Whitney. There's another shout out that returned my call, because some of your colleagues don't even return your call.
Right.
Yeah, right.
You're trying to get in and sub a show. Returned my call, got me in there when the show started. And so I was able to really know the show and play it comfortably a lot.
It was a comfort zone for you to be able to do that.
Right.
Show.
The first time I had my Notre Dame de Paris, which ran, do you guys know about that one?
It was on your list, but please tell us about it.
That is a hybrid opera musical of the Hunchback of Notre Dame.
Right.
So the whole cast and crew came from France. And it ran at Lincoln Center. It had been already played in 23 countries around the world, but never in the States.
Wow.
So last summer, which would be, now we're 2024.
2023, you would have done a summer of 2023. Yeah.
22, the summer of 2022 was a 2-week run at Lincoln Center. So that was actually my chair. So that was easy. And then 2023 expanded to 4 weeks. Amazing show. Set design, singers, the music just beautiful, French music, dark, mysterious.
Yeah, I'm thinking I didn't even know about it, Gwen. I mean, are they coming back again?
I think maybe so. I hope so, because it was just like it set my summer off so nice.
And you could just jump in and do the show, right? That's how it works.
Well, no, we rehearsed.
Right, but you're on that list now.
I'm on
she's on the list.
That was my chair. So
nice.
So now that's easy, right? Because I'm playing, because you're in there, so you're
just playing. Tim, I'm never complaining about doing a Zoom audition ever again. Having to learn a whole entire score of a show, my God.
Well, Gwen, I have to tell you, we have got a few people that have commented, that have sent in comments.
Please read our comments.
Suze Genero from Massachusetts, she's a good friend of ours, a designer, says, hello, dolls. And our dear friend Rose Trentman says, hello, my sweets.
Yes.
Justin Gooding says, thank you for having Gwen Laster on your show.
Thank you, Justin, for being here.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And B. Claudia has a few comments. She says, amazing guest. I love violin. AMFI, friends with Don Destin. And wonder if she knows about him, as well as I'm a huge fan of David Garrett.
Any of those ringing a bell? Don Destin or David Garrett?
No,
okay.
But later on, she asked about David Garrett or Don Destin, both incredible. And now Gwen Laster is on my playlist too. # listening on YouTube.
Hey, all right. Yeah.
There you go. Thank you, B. B comes all the way from Germany to watch.
Yes, from Germany.
It is there. Right?
Welcome and thank you, B.
Lori Towers. And Lori Towers says, that's my Gwen with a heart.
Yay, that's right. That's right. Yeah.
So great having you share this part of who you are and what you do here today. If we don't have a guest like you on here, then people don't know, right? Yeah. And the world that you come from, I know people in that world, but I don't know about that world. And you've given both Tim and I and our audience just an incredible glimmer. I love the whole basically understudy thing where you have to learn the whole score. It's just like in acting. What do you call it again? What did you call when they make you the scores?
Sub.
Yeah, but it's sub something. You talked about it earlier.
Just a sub or to get a chair?
Get a chair.
Well, the chair is
when you actually have the show.
Right. I never knew what that phrase, I learned something here with you today. Get a chair. Yep.
Yeah. And then you have like first and second and third. And, right.
Well, no, it just means it's your show.
Oh, okay.
As opposed to you subbing.
Right.
Well, I was thinking more of an orchestra, because in an orchestra, you have like first chair, second chair.
First violin parts, second violin parts. Yeah, first chair is usually your concert master.
See, we learned so much on this show, Tim. It's like amazing, Who knew?
Yeah.
Well, what do you have coming up that you want to share with our audience?
I think I should talk about the Unsung Collective, which is going to happen in Harlem.
Yes.
On February 9th. And this is a African American orchestra that will be playing music by composers of color.
Nice.
Well, this is on February 9th. I'm putting it in my book too.
Yeah, February 9th.
And what is it? And where is it? And what is the name of it? And do we have a website on it?
Yeah.
Will this be on your website?
It is on my website.
Okay.
Okay. Well, I would recommend everyone go to Gwen Laster's
.net.
.net.
Yeah. Yeah. It's a collective. They're celebrating people of color in Western art music.
Nice.
In
nice.
New York City. So it's at a church in Harlem called Mother of Zion, I believe. I'm looking at my team here.
Oh, very cool. God, you can see that. I'm impressed, Gwen.
Yeah.
Not only can she play violin, she can see her phone.
Yeah.
Now I can see it
So that's
too.
February 9th. And another friend of mine is, we're going to be doing one of her pieces, Jessie Montgomery.
Nice.
Female composer, great composer. So
Fabulous.
if you can come check it out.
Yeah, as soon as I get off, I'm going to go put the details on. Thank you. Fabulous.
Yes, we're so grateful you took some time and came and just shared your wisdom and your talents with us. Thank you.
Thank you for having me. It's been a blast. It's been a blast.
It's been a blast, and we look forward to hearing more from Gwen in the future. You know, everybody does stay in touch with us.
Oh, good.
And they do, and you are in the New York area, so
which is better yet. Yeah.
And Tim and I, once we have you on the show, we insert ourselves into your life. How about that?
I love it.
You'll meet us coming around the corner.
Yeah.
We're out there all the time. We were at the Glam Awards the other night. It's a lot of younger kids. I said to Tim, I said, we're out like 5 nights out of 7. Who are all these people? And how did they?
We had no idea.
I never heard of this one or that one, which shows you, you know what? New York is a mighty big town.
Absolutely.
It
you know.
It really is. Yeah. It's big and it's small too, right?
Right?
Yes, right.
Big and small at the same time.
Yes.
Thank you, everybody who tuned in today. Gwen, thank you. This was a treasure. Yeah. And thank you, Tym Moss.
And thank you, Wendy Stuart.
And we will be back next week.
Thank you, Gwen Laster.
Bye. Thank you.